Hello class, it's my favorite time of year. Time to complain about Ryan Murphy for far too long. In fairness, I haven't done it in a while. I don't know if you've heard, but Ryan Murphy has a new show. Another one. Everyone loved it. It did yossify a serial killer, not the first time he's done that, but what it lacked in taste it made up for in Addison Rae. Oh wait, that was in October. In November, he released another show. My God, Ryan Murphy never rests. And this new show was a dramedy starring Kim Kardashian as a divorce attorney who runs an all-female firm, always flies private, and on casual Fridays wears a thong to the office.
I kind of love that for her.
This project in particular really does feel like it was tailor-made to destroy me. But I feel like that can't be right. This show debuted at an astounding 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, which even by the recent Ryan Murphy project standard, that's pretty bad. It's as bad as it can get. As of recording it now, it's sitting at a 3% critic score, but also a 65% audience score, which isn't terrible. Critic scores aren't everything. One of my favorite movies this year was Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Is this actually queer art so layered in post-irony that the critics at Variety just simply cannot comprehend it? Or, just throwing this out there, is this once again the kind of rage bait slop that could only be created by a man who wears a tiny trench coat and a chimney sweep hat on a regular basis? Well, you know me, I just had to find out.
From cocktails to rings all in one 24-hour period. God, I love my job.
This is not just a Ryan Murphy thing by any means, but I think in the outraged algorithm, just the cultural landscape that we have today, there is media that is created not really for an audience to enjoy, but simply for controversy, for clip farming on TikTok, fodder for every journalist and content creator alike to talk about how this is the worst piece of media they've ever seen, which even when that review is so cutting and so brutal, still ultimately leads to a handful of people watching the show they otherwise wouldn't have cared about. It's interesting, the show is pretty terrible throughout, don't get me wrong, but I do find it fascinating that the first 3 episodes were just by far the worst, and those were the ones that most people watched because they dropped all at once. Those were the ones that the critics really based most of the reviews on. I don't know if that was actually a conscious strategy, like that feels crazy if it was, but that's something I noticed. And am I contributing to this hellscape by talking about this show here with you all? Well, yes, but because I'm self-aware that I'm being played, it doesn't count. I think that's how that works. I imagine most of you haven't watched this series through, or maybe not even a full episode of the show because you have a sense of self-preservation that I just simply do not possess. But there were 9 whole episodes of this thing that I watched through and had a lot of thoughts on. So let me just give you a quick rundown. Also, today's video is sponsored by me. Go follow me on Twitch. I game over there. I'm a gamer girl. I have a Patreon. All right, bye. First off, because these characters all have very silly names and are played by just very famous people, I just refer to them as their actors' names in my notes, and that's what I'm gonna do here. Just feels like it'll be less confusing for everybody. The show opens with Naomi Watts just being furious and British. She says to Kim K, "Can you believe what he said?" She then, of course, repeats what he said to the only person in the room who also heard exactly what he said.
Did you hear what that arsehole said? Children should be seen and not heard. He meant us.
He said children should be seen, not heard. And Kim, I don't know if you're following this metaphor, but we are the children in this line of dialogue. But who said that? I'm confused.
Who the fuck does he think he is?
Senior managing partner.
Thank God they clarified that. With expository dialogue that subtle, you know we're off to a strong start. Naomi and Kim decide that they are going to start their own firm just for the girlies, which conceptually I'm down for. They tell their boss, Glenn Close, that that's their plan, and Glenn is like, you know what? Yeah, that's chill. Everyone who's ever worked at a law firm knows if there's one thing a managing partner loves, it's when their associates leave to start a rival firm. Glenn's like, hey, I'll do you one better. I'll even let you poach one of the other employees, but only one, don't get too greedy now. So they grab fellow lawyer Niecy Nash, and they're like, hey, we'll make you a full partner and a multimillionaire in 2 years if you come with us. I would love to know how they plan to do that because that seems like a wildly unrealistic offer for someone who works in family law, famously any line of work that actually helps people pay significantly less. But Niecy's like, yeah, that makes sense. Also, you could just make me partner right now because you two are literally starting from nothing, but that's fine. You two can be my bosses in an office of 3. Why not? What am I gonna do? Report you to HR? You are my HR. This is a very normal and girl slay work dynamic we have here. Sarah Paulson is very upset about this because she's a pick-me, in the literal sense that she wants them to pick her choose her, love her.
Why can't you choose me? Why?
And they probably should have, considering she's the best lawyer there. She bills the most hours, and she even offers to do all of their work if she just lets them join their firm. But no, absolutely not, because
Because you never learn to be human or navigate space between what you want and
How much you want it.
Okay, so like, what do you actually mean by that? Like, honestly, Sarah Paulson is so right to be pissed because these two literally have nothing and they still turned her down. Then Glenn Close called her chopped.
Do you know what Golda is famous for saying? Not being beautiful was the true blessing. It forced me to develop my inner resources.
This is a level of humiliation that would haunt me and become my life's purpose for the better part of a decade. It's not even that she's bad at her job. They just think that she's a loser. Yes, Glenn did say that they could only take one, but they literally just quit their job. They don't owe Glenn Close anything. Also, later in the show, Glenn will try and convince them to let Sarah Paulson join the firm, and she's like, I always wanted my girls to all be together. It broke my heart that they're separated. Hang on, Glenn. You separated the girls. That was you. But we need to set up tension, so we can't think about that. We then fast forward 10 years into the future, and somehow both Sarah Paulson and the girl bosses have both managed to reach a level of wealth and success that feels unachievable even for real life attorneys.
Your favorite case of the past 10 years.
Sheikh Walid, getting him to fork over a cool $1 billion.
Oh, that's easy. LaTanya Bailey. She was able to cash out so big that she has a Princeton science wing with her name on it.
Would it be interesting to see how they all manage to get billionaire clients from absolutely nothing? Sure. But that would require a level of creative writing that the show is not interested in, doesn't have time for. They're divorce lawyers for billionaires now, and isn't that so fun and cool? And the show loves to remind you just how much wealth they and their clients have. The first episode stops for what feels like a full 2 minutes just to watch Kim walk through her own giant empty museum of a house. She gets a ring from her stinky husband.
Didn't this belong to Elizabeth Taylor?
When one of their clients is getting held up in her own bedroom by her soon-to-be ex-husband, they fully ignore that and just stop everything to look at how expensive this woman's jewelry is.
I'm here to help. Now show me the bling.
They drop everything after being accused of murder later in the show to fly private to New York Fashion Week, all in coordinated outfits as if they had planned this all along. This excessive amount of wealth built off divorce, one of the most painful experiences a person can go through, is meant to be both normal and aspirational because they're women supporting women, as long as those women can pay their $1 million retainer upfront and in cash.
10 years ago today, we stepped away from the patriarchy and towards something of our own.
Just imagine Naomi is looking at all of these jewels with her client, and then 2 months later, that client gets a bill reminding her that Naomi bills $3,000 an hour in 6-minute increments. You have to laugh so you don't cry. Also, even though Sarah Paulson has built this huge firm all by herself, like I said, she is still incredibly bitter towards these women for ruining her life. Because if she wasn't angry, we wouldn't get to see Sarah Paulson say the most rotted lines of dialogue in every single scene.
You fat, treacherous lawn chairs.
Beef curtains. Black Mae West.
You know what? One of the few things in the show I can get behind. I also just don't think Ryan Murphy can write a fictional show without one female character who is just scorned beyond belief. There just has to be a Sue Sylvester-like character in every one of his shows. Say what you will, but one thing Ryan Murphy consistently delivers with his writing is just unhinged reads. And that is in full force with Sarah's character.
How are you holding up, you poor discarded rag?
Honestly, Ryan shouldn't be writing TV shows. He should bring back epic rap battles of history. I feel like that's where his true talent lies. They also have a receptionist slash, I think, paralegal played by Tiana Taylor, who is severely underutilized in the show, unfortunately. But Tiana Taylor is studying for the bar herself as well. And luckily, Kim, being the woman supporting woman that she is, she lets Tiana sit there in silence while they all talk about their brand new case. Tiana's gonna make a great lawyer one day. For the first episode, they're representing a woman who was married to a billionaire, would you believe? She gave up her own career to be a trophy wife, was in a very unhappy situation. That is until he brought in a third, and she fell in love with that third Bisexuals, we love it. This man, of course, had her sign a prenup, which would leave her with absolutely nothing if she were to divorce him and run off with her third, who I forget the name of. This is a running theme within the cases that these women take on. Women who are married to rich, powerful, shitty men. These men not only wield the power in the relationships, but also in the divorce with prenups, finances, and their fame. And Kim Kardashian and the gang are here to make sure that they get their fair share. All's fair. Certainly not every case, though. One woman in episode 2 just publicly cheats on her husband with a younger man, and with the help of Naomi Watts, walks out with millions of dollars in expensive jewelry that was gifted to her. Another is a big-time tech exec. One is literally just Brooke Shields, who wants to divorce her husband who is dying of Alzheimer's. The theme of the show is often undercut when all of the women they represent are themselves incredibly privileged white women who have the financial ability in the first place to hire Kim Kardashian and the gang and get billions of dollars out of their relationship. Like, we've seen her house. I just know that consult fee alone could feed a family of 4 for a decade. But alas, as rich and powerful and hot and beloved as Kim may be, no one is safe. I repeat, no one is safe when there's a man bun around. Her NFL brick of a husband is cheating on her with just en masse tons of women, even her own secretary, Tiana Taylor. This is devastating news, and you can tell by Kim's reaction.
I want a divorce.
You want a divorce? What are you talking about?
Alora!
Listen, I don't think any of us went into this show expecting Kim to be giving Emmy award-winning performance in this show. There are some moments where it genuinely takes me out of the scene because it's so bad.
Jesus, what? You're scaring me.
But also there are times where her acting is just fine. For the record, the issue is there are some people in the world who just, no matter what, have a monotone, don't really have a dynamic voice, and even if you're acting your ass off, it just isn't gonna carry through. And that is the case with Kim Kardashian. Like, I feel like this is kind of the best that she can give. She's not phoning it in, but that also doesn't mean that her performance is gonna be great, you know?
What we have here is knowledge, and knowledge is the key in the lock. All we have to do is turn it just the right way.
At a certain point, you just accept it. It goes to the back of your mind. But why would Tiana Taylor do this to her? Well, there is an explanation. See, Kim Kardashian is so perfect and successful. Like everyone else, Tiana's jealous.
Laura, I worship you and I need you to know that.
So you did this because you want to be me.
Everybody wants to be you.
She's not a moth, by the way. I know you were all thinking that.
Do I look like a moth to you?
She's a butterfly.
Hell no. I'm a motherfucking butterfly and I know this.
But she can't escape from hovering under Kim's porch light. You know, like a moth. This dialogue is good, actually. Kim moves on from this mixed metaphor and says, okay, what's the question? Again, very natural statement. This is how people talk. Tiana says, well, the real question is it green? I mean, is it his? And the answer is yes. Tiana is pregnant. She also broke up with Chase off screen, I guess, because the show goes from Chase leaving Kim, hooking up with Tiana. And she's all like, does Kim know yet? And Kim's ex-husband Chase is like, well, you know what Kim says, all's fair. Like the title of the show. Then next time we see Tiana, she hates Chase. She doesn't want anything to do with them. They've broken up entirely off screen because Tiana, I guess, found out that there were other women involved. The pacing of this show really suffers because they need to maximize screen time for the big time actors they got for this project. But they also wrote themselves 6 different B plots that are all happening simultaneously in every single episode. But that is just the foundation of this show. Then between their cases of the week, we start to get into the overarching plot for these ladies. Glenn is back to represent Kim in her divorce. She is married to Jay from Modern Family until Jay dies. Rest in peace, Jay from Modern Family. Glenn gives a performance reacting to his death that this show frankly does not deserve. She keeps Jay from Modern Family, his body, with her for 3 days until she gets a pep talk from her gals. Dry those tears, queen. Chin up, your crown is falling. And also, that man is actively rotting at this point. Even though Kim and Naomi founded the firm, Kim Kardashian is just the hottest and the coolest, and we do get reminded every episode that everybody wants to be her. Maybe if her face card wasn't so criminal, we wouldn't have all this conflict in the show. Her husband divorces her because she's so hot and cool. Her secretary sleeps with her husband because Kim is so hot and cool. Sarah Paulson cosplays as Kim and also sleeps with her husband because she's so hot and cool. Kim finds out that her ex-husband not only cheated with dozens of women, he also dated a trans former sex worker. And there is an uncomfortable emphasis on the word trans from some of these actors.
Maria Kouloudis, born Mark Kouloudis Chase, has been with a trans sex worker.
There are some interesting ideas played out with this trans character, but unfortunately, it kind of gets thrown to the wayside and we don't get any resolution. I don't know if that's a thing that'll get picked up in season 2. They have one whole episode basically dedicated to this trans woman just existing, like, you know, all of the other mistresses that Chase had. And then they just kind of throw this character to the wayside. And I don't even know how to feel about that, quite honestly. There's also this plotline where Kim really wants to be a mother. She created embryos with her ex-husband and he's threatening to destroy them in the divorce. And so she implants the last embryos behind his back without his consent. Unfortunately, though, Kim has a miscarriage. This is another thing that they kind of just have one scene about this miscarriage and then we're moving on to the next. Like, it feels really strange for such a heavy topic. But they do show one of their clients just turning to Kim unprompted and saying, "You get it. I can tell that you never want kids."
I know you get this. We're not all put on this earth to have kids.
Everyone knows, and Ryan Murphy knows most, that women love to presume and verbalize their thoughts about other women's fertility. When we're not syncing our periods, that's all we're talking about. So when Chase hears that Kim had a miscarriage, he's ready to stop fighting and give Kim the divorce on her terms. They kiss in one of the few purposeful shots in the show. It's wide angle, silhouette, it's meant to signal their resolution. But then they have sex again, like an episode later, because it's been a minute since we've had a gratuitous sex scene on the show. The straights are out of control. Kim also takes a strange interest in Tiana. Don't get me wrong, she's mad that Tiana cheated with her husband. Again, just for one scene. Anything that is really emotionally heavy, we move on from very quickly in the show. Next thing you know, she's bringing Tiana baby supplies. She agrees to represent Tiana in the custody suit against, again, her own ex-husband, which definitely feels like that would raise a conflict of interest issue, but whatever.
She's smart and she's pregnant. And if we're not about women supporting women, then we're not walking the walk.
Even though Tiana in the pilot knew that she was the other woman to her own boss. You know, she didn't seem to care too much about that then, didn't really care if that was wrong to do. But now she's pissed at Chase because she found out that Chase was cheating with other women. Tiana, you're a butterfly. Like Kristen Doty, what is happening with your character right now? Naomi's subplot is definitely the laziest of the bunch. She has this hot, handsome, perfect boyfriend. Definitely not anything wrong with him that's going to be revealed at the end of the season. No. You know, being a divorce attorney, she doesn't know if she wants to get married because, you know, she's seen all these marriages go bad. She changes her mind about that pretty fast, like in an episode, only to once again get uncomfortable when he offers to give her a prenup that would protect her if his business failed. Why does he care to protect her if his business has failed? Don't ask about that. The whole thing is such a cliche and you already know where it's going to go from like line 1. So this being an issue for 7 episodes was not ideal. They also throw in this other plot where Naomi is insecure because she's British. No, and she should be.
Yeah, I guess I just feel like I'll never be part of this American sisterhood thing you guys got.
So even though her and Kim left a firm together, like they started it together and had Niecy working for them, Naomi feels like she's the odd one out in this group of 3.
Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you most are the ones who make you feel left out.
Again, because she assumes everyone is Anglophobic.
Do you know, I was just talking to the girls about Princess Di's wedding. They must have been on the other side of the planet when it happened because they looked at me like I was
The outsider you are.
I think maybe they intended to have this plotline originally for Niecy's character, but then they realized the optics of like Niecy, the one black partner at this firm, feeling isolated and left out. That would be a very different storyline that maybe Ryan Murphy is not equipped to handle. And so they just gave it to Naomi, but they didn't really give Naomi a compelling reason for her to feel left out other than her being British. I mean, deserved. Anyways, this leads to Naomi doing wacky shenanigans. She's always trying to get the women to like her. She bombards a grieving Glenn Close with unconsensual bagpipes.
Oh, God.
whining about not being invited to Kim's divorce mediation?
So explain to me why you scheduled your divorce mediation on the exact day that you knew I had to be across town stuck in that arbitration.
Kim, you built your life with this man for 5 years only for him to cheat on you multiple times and hire your biggest enemy who is dead set on destroying your livelihood. And you didn't even think I'd want to go see that? Jeez, Naomi, someone's beans on toast was a little cold this morning, huh? Now it's everyone's problem, I guess. Sarah Paulson, I think just being the most compelling actor on the show, is also the most interesting subplot. If you haven't noticed already, characters will just plainly state what they're about or what other characters are about, even if it doesn't make sense in the scene. There's one scene where Glenn Close is talking to Naomi, and Naomi is like, Glenn Close, why do you even care about Sarah Paulson? I feel responsible for her, for all of you, but particularly for her. She experienced the worst kind of abandonment from her father. Her father killed himself, and that's why she draws her own lines on her skin, in the sand, across anyone who tries to get too close to her, because if she's doing the damage, at least it's not being done to her. Just in case you couldn't pick up on the subtlety of Ryan Murphy's writing, Glenn just spells out Sarah Paulson's character for you. Completely unprompted, like they're at a fashion week and she's talking about this. But also because Sarah built this firm by herself entirely on her own, she's worried that she's failing as a mom. She doesn't really get to spend enough time with her daughter. She had her daughter via a sperm donor who her child refers to as uncle, which for a horrifying moment, I thought that meant that Sarah Paulson had a child with her own brother. But no, thankfully, the daughter just meant that in like a he's a family friend kind of way. Sarah and her friend Sebastian, the biological father of her kid, had a falling out a long time ago on account of Sarah suing him for child endangerment because he forgot her daughter's backup inhaler. Sarah is super overprotective of her daughter, one, because of her own traumatic relationship with her father that Glenn Close thankfully explained to us, and also because her kid is kind of the only substantial relationship she has in her life. She wants her kid to succeed. She even lets her kid write about Sarah's history with self-harm, if that means that her daughter can get into an elite school. After Sarah Paulson gets yelled at by Emma from Once Upon a Time, that was crazy to see.
Wait, are you f***ing crying?
She befriends a woman named Alberta Dome who wants to help Sarah, you guessed it, take down Kim Kardashian because
I'm tired of approaching my high-profile clients and undermining my credibility in court. I want her squashed.
Kim Kardashian's so good at lawyering makes my job hard. Why I gotta? Don't worry too much about this character, Alberta Dome. She is gone after 2 episodes and we never think about her again. One night after Sarah Paulson bathes Chase, don't ask, Sarah Paulson drives home drunk. I'm not gonna lie, this was another one of the few scenes that genuinely tickled me. This was a good one.
Officer Brzezinski. Brzezilski. Wow. You got all the consonants in one name.
Turns out all I needed was drunk Sarah Paulson to feel alive again.
Can you walk towards me?
Well, you bet I can.
Yeah.
Somehow Niecy gets the footage of this, and even though it is not relevant to the divorce itself, she plays this at the divorce mediation for no legal purpose, just to humiliate her. This leads to Sarah once again giving a performance that this show did not earn, a full mental breakdown on the table. And also just so many shots of her feet, like way too many shots of Sarah Paulson's dogs. Kim and the girls are like, whoa, that was crazy. Maybe we should apologize to Sarah for excluding her for 10 years for no real reason. Like maybe we're a part of the problem, but also why so much feet? Niecy's plotline is definitely the darkest, so just a forewarning for you all. Tonally, it feels really out of place with what's supposed to be just a campy drama show, and honestly, Sarah's at some points does as well. Niecy has 3 kids via sperm donors, and she raised them all on her own. They're smart, they're sweet, they're successful. Now that they're adults, she wants to finally make some time for herself. So she goes to a singles mixer after picking out an outfit with, who else? Kim Kardashian.
Okay, Queen, so what's the vibe we're going for? What kind of milkshake brings the boys to the yard?
Only then, Niecy meets a man who drugs and assaults her. There's this heartbreaking moment in the hospital where Niecy is told that there wasn't significant physical evidence. She's only just unpacking the extent of what has just happened to her, but this scene is way too short for the emotional gravity of it. We get 5 seconds of just true emotional devastation, and then next thing you know, she's calling Kim Kardashian in a way too zoomed in shot to get Kim to come over here. Like, like I said, at a certain point, you kind of just tune out Kim's performance, but it feels really darkly out of place here. Like, this is one scene that demands a whole lot of nuanced emotion from someone who I just don't think is capable of giving that kind of performance.
We will not let this go. Justice will be served one way or the other.
Thank you. Thank all of you.
Niecy goes right back to work without giving herself time to grieve, and you see these out-of-character outbursts because of it. Niecy wasn't just being a cartoon villain when she put Sarah's drunk video on the monitor. She did that because Sarah made a joke about seeing illicit photos of her online. Sarah doesn't know, but we as the audience know that those photos are from the man who assaulted Niecy. As usual, true to life, the police refuse to help Niecy, so the women themselves help investigate who this man is. They find out that he is the son of a man Glenn sued years ago for running a pyramid scheme. His father died by suicide shortly after he lost the case, and they think that Niecy's assault was partly motivated by revenge on Glenn. This reveal is one of those things where it feels like it was put in the show simply for the sake of having a plot twist. Niecy, understandably feels kind of betrayed by Glenn. The worst thing that could have happened to her happened because of a lawsuit that Glenn was involved in that had nothing to do with Niecy. But then we cut to just an episode later, and Niecy and Glenn never talk about it again. They're just fine. Again, feels like a really serious thing that would need more emotional buildup to have weight, but we're just breezing through it. This is also really just a petty thing, but I am confused on what these women do. Because I know a lot of other people don't care or don't know this, but law partners, you're not working in drastically different areas of the law most of the time. Glenn Close is Kim's divorce lawyer. Most divorce lawyers just do divorce, but she also sued a person for white-collar crime. She ends up representing all of the ladies when they get accused of murder later on, so is she a criminal attorney too? She refers to Sarah Paulson as an ambulance chaser, which means Sarah Paulson did personal injury law, which again is a very specific niche that usually people just dedicate their whole practice to. But Sarah Paulson also does divorce, and she also does a mediation for fraud and business practices. Kim Kardashian sues someone for medical malpractice off screen. Like, whatever the plot demands, these women are experts in, even though we never really see them speak about the law in any sort of knowledgeable way. Again, I do think I am the only one who cares about that, but it did bother me. Anyways, after we learned this wild info dump about Glenn, off screen, the man that assaulted Niecy dies. He gets murdered. And suddenly, the last 3 episodes of the season were in this weird whodunit plot where we're moving on from helping rich women divorce their husbands. Like, we're not really focusing on that at all. And now we're trying to figure out who killed this sexual predator. This writing choice is ghoulish. That's kind of the only way to put it. So now that you all have a vague understanding of the plot, non-plot of the show, I would like to keep complaining, actually, because a serial drama about an all-woman law office, at the end of the day, that's not a bad premise. Plenty of other shows have similar concepts and they do just fine. But what really bogs the show down is the writing, the style, or lack thereof, really, and the wildly mismatched performances. Listen, I just posted a video about Once Upon a Time. That show is objectively insane, but also did I enjoy it? Hell yes. Secret Life of the American Teenager, the goddamn Chicken Girls. I am no stranger to fun and whimsy the way I think fans of the show might assume, because the ultimate defense of the show is that it's camp. I am well aware that this show is meant to be just a little bit goofy silly. It's not meant to be taken that seriously despite some of the heavy subject matter that is in it. The characters have names like Liberty Ronson, Emerald Green. In divorce mediations, they throw up pictures of butt plugs as if this has anything to do with the issues they're talking about. And yes, sometimes cheek is out. This show is definitely aware of its own ridiculousness, and that's like the joke. Duh, no lawyer would actually look or act the way that they do, and isn't that just so funny, silly, haha. But then the show also delves into deeply serious topics like sexual assaults, transphobia, domestic violence, and there isn't really a delineation between what's the drama of the show and the comedy. This was a problem on Glee back in the day too. The school shooting episode in particular felt deeply insensitive. Perhaps an executive at the time should have noticed that a show where the teacher twerks and sings the thong song maybe isn't the best forum for that kind of subject matter. Here though, that whiplash feels even more extreme, because at least in Glee, it is much easier to tell what's satire, what is meant to be a joke. Look at the way that dialogue is delivered.
All right, who can tell me who Christopher Cross is?
He discovered America.
close. This isn't just about me, this is about the team.
You are such a hypocrite. Like you even know what that means. It means that your boyfriend is full of crap, Hobbit.
It's over the top, it's punchy. The editing is all a bunch of quick cuts.
Double stuffed, fatty, gassy McGravy pants. We are just one big, happy family.
Santana, stay out of this.
You are such a bacon-wrapped, bug-eyed hypocrite.
The camera zooms from character to character. There's that little acapella guy backtrack that I so do love. Then when the show is meant to be serious, the camera is steady. The dialogue is slowed down. Instead of singing "What Does the Fox Say?", Blaine is devouring cough syrup over a sad montage. There is a very clear style and voice to the direction of Glee. And maybe it's just because Brad Falchuk isn't here, but there is not that same energy in All's Fair. In fact, there's no energy. Every line is delivered in this same dreary, dull tone at the same pace. There's nothing dynamic about it. And I don't just mean that Kim's monotone. Like, yes, Kim is not a strong actor, but it's not just her. And we know that Glenn Close, for example, is an incredibly talented actress. It's not an acting issue. It's a directing issue and an editing issue.
Did someone leave the gates open at the trailer park?
Funny. And you? Couldn't resist the chance to fake being nice, huh?
There are so many times when they have to stop the plot of the show just to have these women sit around and talk about how cool and successful they are, and it has less and less energy every time you see it. It's like they're all having a mog-off and the audience is losing. The camera work just cuts from this person is talking, now this person is talking, and like a lot of modern media, they way overuse the super blurry background close-up shots, and it loses the character closeness it's meant to convey. Like, people just use it for no dang reason nowadays. This show has a big budget, so instead of the whimsical a cappella transitions of Glee, they use big pop songs and make the most obvious sample choices that you could make. The scene where we flash back to Chase and Kim's beach wedding, the show loudly blasts Young and Beautiful by Lana Del Rey as the two slowly dance around the beach. Is this choice lazy beyond belief because this shot is meant to be satirical? Or is it meant to be serious? They're not making stylistic choices. They're banking on an audience to give them the benefit of the doubt and make that assumption for them. I am not kidding. They used the song Walk On By in 2 scenes back to back. Because wasn't it so cool the first time? It's also a Doja Cat song, but the second scene is very clearly a reference to Beyonce's Lemonade, famously not the same thing. Looks like someone couldn't get the rights to the song they actually wanted, but we'll just go with it. Every choice in the show feels like it can be interpreted either way, so that Ryan Murphy and his team can change the answer to fit who they're talking to. If people like it, the show is intentional and artistic. And if it's bad, it's supposed to be bad, silly. It's camp. When I think of Kim Kardashian, that's the first word that comes to mind. I do think that we as a society are losing the definition of camp. And maybe it's just because straight people know what that word means now. Was the Met Gala the start of it all? I don't know. Just because something is bad, that doesn't make it camp. And just because something is bad, that also doesn't mean that it's so bad that it's good. Let's not bog down the word camp. Camp cannot be the catch-all defense for shallow story writing. I just refuse. My consistent complaint about this show has been the sloppy exposition and just the bad dialogue. And I actually need to talk about it more in specifics because no one on this show speaks like normal people. For example, Glenn Close is brought back to represent Kim in her divorce. She's not a lawyer at the firm. She just hangs around there all day, even though she doesn't need to be. There's this one scene between Naomi and Glenn where they're loudly explaining back and forth how they have this one client where a husband embezzled a bunch of money and how that relates to Naomi and Naomi's anxiety about getting married. Tell, don't show. I think that's the expression. Then Naomi, without a lick of irony, just stops the conversation and goes, hang on, why are we talking about this? This makes no sense for us to be talking about this right now. Why are we talking about me and my case when you're just here for Kim's divorce?
I thought you were here for Alora's divorce. Why are we even talking about Dee's case?
And Glenn goes, girl, I don't know. Our contract negotiations required me to have a certain amount of screen time. Naomi and Kim go visit a dominatrix who they hope will expose a kinky ex-husband and give them leverage in court. They walk in and the front desk is like, hang on, the dominatrix will not see you. Anyways, the dominatrix immediately walks out and goes, wait, I kind of like your vibe. Come on in.
I'm sorry, she's not available.
Would you like to book a salt scrub? If you're here on business and not to unwind, you're wasting your time.
Business is how I unwind.
Fine.
But don't try and convince me to give you evidence. I've heard it all. Heard every sob story. And Naomi is like, well, that's too bad because this sob story is really gay and sad. And the dominatrix legit is like, oh shit, wait, I didn't think you guys had a sob story for me. Also, they just offer to pay her $10 million to spill everything. God, they're good. Who knew paying someone $10 million could get them to say whatever you want? No one lawyers like them. In another scene, Kim just calls Tiana up. What would happen if you called Tiana up? And she's like, listen, Tiana, I know Chase hasn't asked you for literally anything, no custody, nothing, but I think that you should meet with him and demand that he leave you alone right now, and that would go over really well. And Tiana is like, fine, I will do that, but only if you, the ex-wife of my baby daddy, represent me legally in this situation. That sounds like probably the worst person you could ask, but Kim is like, of course, I am nothing but a professional. Anyways, Kim just sits in silence while these two yell at each other, ending with Chase going to, you know what? Before this conversation, I was just gonna give you money and leave you alone, but now I will sue you for custody, while Kim just stares blankly in a very lawyerly way.
I was the toy for you that you had on a show.
Wow, Kim, I can really see how you run the most esteemed law firm in town. You got them good with that one. My favorite scene, I think, in the entire show is when Niecy is home alone and her kids all walk in the room. Hey, Mom, tell us what you're doing tonight. What's your motivation? And Niecy is like, wait, didn't you guys just leave for Coachella an hour ago? And they're like, yeah. They didn't have to write them leaving and coming back, but somehow the writers thought that this was the easiest, most natural way to establish the stakes of this episode. I'm also just very unsure what the message of the show actually is, other than it being a weirdly unironic take on feminist late-stage capitalism. There's this one episode that starts with the ladies talking about all of the beauty treatments that they've gotten. The treatments are all obviously ridiculous and expensive, which almost makes you think that this is meant to be a commentary on the excesses of beauty treatments for the wealthy who desperately try to prevent aging at the cost of the beauty standard for all women moving further to an unattainable goal. But the thing is, Kim Kardashian is the star of the show, so she's maybe not the best mouthpiece for something like that. So instead, they have Glenn Close go, oh my gosh, beauty treatments. You women waste your time with that? Ladies, haven't you ever read a book? And they're like, no, we exist to deny our age.
Aren't there days you long to lie in a hammock reading Jane Austen?
Will Jane Austen really help you adjust to aging and gravity and public opinion?
Then they just wrap this really weird scene up with, you know what? Whatever beauty treatments you want, you do you, girl. Let's not unpack this further. It's like 5 different takes all in one scene. It works its way around to actually meaning nothing. Also in that episode, Jessica Simpson is the victim of botched plastic surgery. She got it because her abusive husband pushed her to get unnecessary procedures from a shady doctor. Luckily, their negotiations are going great. All you have to do is threaten to leak the abuse to the press, and the evil ex-husband backs down. And it kind of makes me wonder what they would do with any client who wasn't insanely famous and wealthy, because that's always their solution. It's threaten the ex-husband with outing them as bad people to the press, which works. I'm not against that as a concept. That can't be the only strategy. Is there any sort of law in this show? No, there's not. That is probably the aspect of the show that I find both sad and insidious, like this weird wish fulfillment version of the law. I think a lot of people who go to law school go in thinking that they can change the system, that they can get justice for people, only to discover that they're operating in something that's broken and that doesn't have space for people's feelings because it can't. There is a standard that is applied and an objectivity that is required for it to function. Not that justice doesn't exist in the legal system, but it doesn't look the way that it is painted in the show. But the show isn't interested in making an actual commentary on that. It's only interested in the law so much as it is an aesthetic and a source of power. I think it's interesting that all of the victories don't happen in a courtroom. It's all in mediations and negotiations where they can rely on non-legal things to get what they want. That way we don't have to watch these actors pretend to know a bunch of silly legalese, and again, we can put a butt plug on the screen. I mean, seriously, had me rolling on the floor laughing, throwing up when they put that up on the projector. These ladies are so crazy. In fairness, I don't think anybody who's actually been to law school is the target audience for the show. I also just happen to have a very jaded view of the legal system. Again, probably not like the typical general audience. So maybe the law being treated as this much more powerful and aesthetic thing than it actually is. It's just like part of the gimmick. Ryan Murphy didn't think that hard about this stuff because the audience also wasn't intended to think that much about this stuff. That just isn't the point of the show. But also, I do find the law firm aspect of it relevant because the show is meant to be an escapist fantasy. The luxury, the homes, the outfits that they all get from their jobs as lawyers. I know firsthand that you do not get that kind of wealth without helping the rich get richer. I don't even think that applies to just law. That's like any form of business, honestly. Do you want to do good in the world, or do you want to help a real estate company merge with another real estate company? You'll be overworked either way, but only one of those will offer a livable wage. Well, more than a livable wage. And as long as we're here talking about the law or lack thereof, I do feel like this is maybe the elephant in the room of the marketing of the show. We might as well talk about the real selling point, Kim Kardashian. If Kim Kardashian was not the lead actress of the show, no one would be talking about it. Without her, it's just another half-hearted parody of prestige television with the same actors we see in every Ryan Murphy project. But if there's one thing Kim Kardashian can do, whether you like her or not, it's elicit a reaction from people. The legacy of those goddamn Bush songs will outlive us all. And in case you haven't read Pete Davidson's tattoos before he spent thousands of dollars and years covering them up, my girl is a lawyer. Well, not really, not yet, but she's trying to be. And because her law school journey has gone on for 6 years, double what it would have been if she'd just done traditional law school. You know, obviously people have their thoughts about this. Kim first got involved in criminal justice reform advocacy in 2018 and publicly announced that she was studying to be a lawyer in 2019. The one thing every lawyer you ever met will tell you on no certain terms never to do. Except she wasn't going to law school. California is one of only 4 states where you can do an apprenticeship instead of traditional law school. Kind of like in the ye olden times when people just practiced surgery on their friends a few times and then became the town doctor. So Kim has lawyers who supervise her and they help her learn basic legal concepts. 1 year into this apprenticeship in California, you need to take what's called the first year law student's examination, or the baby bar, as everyone calls it. I didn't have to take the baby bar. I mean, I don't live in California, for starters, so I can't really speak to how difficult it is. But unlike the full bar, which in California covers 14 subjects, the baby bar only deals with contracts, tort law, and criminal law, which are the 3 main topics you learn in the first year of law school. You need to get 70% or higher to pass. Kim failed this exam 3 times, and usually you only get 3 chances to take this test. But because of COVID, Kim got to take it a 4th time, and she passed that in 2021. Actually, one of her essay responses was chosen as the model answer on her 4th time. This year, she took the full California bar exam, and her results were actually scheduled to post right around the time this show was dropping. What a coincidence. But unfortunately, she did not pass, and she's going to have to retake the exam if she does want to be a lawyer. Listen, the bar exam sucks. It sucks, dude. I don't wish that on anybody. When I took it, I fully walked out of there and said, no matter what happens, I am not taking that again. I passed, but I am not going to pretend that the bar as it exists today is a good measure of whether someone will be a good lawyer or that they're smart. Like, it is a time-consuming and expensive memory test. That's what it is. And unless you're someone like Kim Kardashian, it is incredibly taxing on you and everyone around you to take multiple times. It's expensive. It's a big time investment. You're usually told that you shouldn't work for 3 months while you're studying just to prepare for that, which a lot of people can't afford to take off. Kim is in a very different position. Law students on average graduate with $130,000 in student loans. If Kim wanted to, she could have dropped the Skims Bush underwear, fully dedicated herself to this. She has top law professors who tutor her. She has a staff that can take care of her and her family's needs, whereas a lot of people lose money taking months off work to study for the bar, or they have to work and study at the same time because they have no choice financially. It's crazy. Kim has all of these privileges, but she still used ChatGPT to study. I'm sure that a lot of law students these days are using ChatGPT to study, and yes, I find that depressing as a whole, but Kim in particular, it's like, I know that you could call up the CEO of Barbary, the bar study guide. You could call him up and he would answer that question for you because you're Kim Kardashian. Like, why are you you using ChatGPT? The only relatable thing about Kim going to law school is that even with all of the money and privilege that she does have, she cannot buy herself a law license. She passes or she doesn't. But I'll be honest, of all of the things that Kim Kardashian does that is discourse in popular media, her wanting to be a lawyer is just one of those things that I can't really get riled up about beyond what I've just talked about. You know what it is? I have a hard time making fun of Kim for wanting to be a lawyer because at the end of the day, what's more embarrassing? An influencer trying to be a criminal justice lawyer or leaving your job as a corporate lawyer to poorly recreate scenes from The Bachelorette as a profession? So at the end of the day, Ryan Murphy and Kim Kardashian get the last laugh because this was also one of the biggest premieres Hulu has had in a long time. It's already renewed for season 2. I am the fool. That's the theme of this. Also, Glenn Close got arrested at the end of season 1 for murdering Andrew Lloyd Webber.
You are under arrest for the murder of Lloyd Andrew Walton.
What? Anyways, those are all my thoughts on All's Fair and Kim Kardashian's legal journey. If you want to check out more from me, I stream a couple times a week and upload that to my second gaming channel. I also make a monthly bonus video over on Patreon for the people who support me over there. This month, we're talking about all of the pop culture moments of 2025. And if you don't want to do any of that, I get it. That's cool, whatever. But if you liked this video, you could feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.